So that is also a major source of biomass that is available in Indonesia that is quite unique here compared to other places. And when you're running a business, the bottleneck is really the people, your own brain, right? Your thinking, what you understand, what you can do, right? So with AI, with this tool, it accelerates your learning as well as enhances your learning. And that I find is very useful. In terms of ESG carbon credit, there's not that much support, at least not in this part of the world yet, right? There's no incentive for companies to actually buy carbon credits in Indonesia because there's no carbon tax, right?
Hey guys, welcome back. This is our first podcast after hours by Permias Mass. My name is Eldrick.
I'm Oliver, and today we're very fortunate to have Pak Lam Brian Chan, who is really been an expert and been in the industry of renewable energy and sustainability. So we're really excited to talk to him today and ask him some questions. So firstly, thank you very much, Pak Brian, for taking the time today. And do you mind just giving a brief introduction of yourself, your upbringing, your background, and yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Happy to be on this podcast, doing some sharing. Thank you for arranging this, Oliver and Eldrick. So a quick introduction of myself. Yeah, my name is, since I'm in Indonesia, I'm originally from Hong Kong, but we have, my family has Indonesian roots, I would say, because my father was actually born in North Sumatra. However, I was born in Hong Kong because the whole family moved to China and then Hong Kong in the 1960s. So anyway, yeah, my name has Pak in it. So whenever I make a reservation, they think the Pak is Mister. So usually they just call me like Pak Lam, but it's actually part of my name. But anyway, so usually I just ask people to call me Brian. But anyway, like I said, I was born and raised in Hong Kong and studied in Hong Kong, studied in UK as well as the States, and then afterwards I worked in the States for 2 years, and then went to China for just less than a year, and then because we had some joint venture with Indonesian companies, so that's why I guess my family we had an internal meeting and decided there needs to be one person stationed here, and I was the youngest in the family, so naturally I took up that role, and I thought it would be an interesting opportunity to come down to Indonesia to see what's going on, and yeah, I guess that was already history since it was like 2013, so it's now 11 years. Scary. Anyway, and
Yeah.
then so a little bit about the business itself, right? When we first got into Indonesia, we actually our JV partner was doing nickel smelting, right? So that was our first exposure, I guess, in a major way in terms of business in Indonesia, and then slowly over time we venture into other areas of business such as real estate development, as well as renewable energy, which is our current primary focus, which is where I spend most of my time right now. So I guess today we'll also maybe mainly talk about that part. Of course, if we have time in the future, maybe we can also explore other topics. And of course, I think how Oliver and I got to meet is because we went to the same high school in Hong Kong, which is scary because he's much younger than me. And then to think that I've already graduated high school like 20 plus, like 20 years ago. And then another thing is because we met in not just because of the high school, but because we had I was also I'm still heading the Indonesia Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong. So we had an event, and Oliver came to our anniversary. So we met, and hopefully we get to meet more bright Indonesian students in Hong Kong, so we can introduce them to our members. So that's pretty much hopefully that's a lot of information. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the event was extremely memorable for me. Thank you very much to Emil for making the connection to Pat Brian. But touching on your point about renewable energy, one of the things that ELL Environmental Holdings specializes in is biomass power generation. Biomass power generation is only 6% of the global energy supply, but I was just wanted to ask you what made this type of energy source so attractive to you relative to other renewable energies?
So the story for this is, I guess it was we kind of got into this uh how would you say, like, half unexpectedly. Of course, there are a lot of renewable energy. There are a lot of different types of renewable energy that we can try to explore. And the reason we got into biomass renewable energy is because we actually bought into this company that was already doing it. And at that time, ELL Environmental Holdings is we're a publicly listed company in Hong Kong, and we're looking for areas of growth. So we thought, so we were looking at this biomass power plant, and we thought this is a good direction to go towards because we were looking at environmental solutions anyway. So our other core business is also in wastewater treatment. So that's why biomass energy was attracted to us. But after we actually got into this, we found there are several things that make biomass energy quite an attractive proposition because number one, Indonesia has a lot of biomass because doesn't have, well, we don't have winter here, right? And then number two, there are tons of plantation. When talking about different types of plantation, and one of the major uh, crop is the palm oil. So that is also a major source of biomass that is available in Indonesia. That is quite unique here compared to other places. If we were to look at some of these biomass projects in China that we looked at, actually it's not as sustainable because in China, obviously, what I mentioned, the weather, there's winter. So during winter, you have to stock a lot of raw material, right? For our small biomass power plant that is 12 megawatt, we need to burn about 400 tons, right? Maybe it's not like, maybe it doesn't really register like how much 400 tons is. It's like a small mountain, and that's like how much you have to burn per day. And then if you have to stock over months and months of it, it's almost impossible. That's number one. So that's why a lot of it doesn't work out in China because of one is because of the weather. Second is because of how scattered the biomass is, right? Of course, biomass is everywhere. You can find it in the fields when they harvest, but then nobody actually collects them. Whereas Indonesia's biomass, number one is more abundant. Second, because of the industry, the upstream industry of the agriculture, as well as the oil plantation, the palm oil plantation. A lot of these things are centralized. Like the collection of it is already done. So that makes it possible. So that's one. Second one that makes it, I think another factor that makes it attractive to us is because the reason it has a smaller market share is because it's very difficult to do. I mean, difficult in the sense that it's very troublesome to do because of several reasons. Number one is biomass comes in all shapes and sizes, and then their properties are uh, heterogeneous, meaning that you have to do a lot of pre-processing. So that's actually a lot of hassle. That's number one. Number two is there is in terms of supply chain, even though I said Indonesia is more concentrated, but it's still very scattered. So which means you have to deal with a lot of supply chain issues. Compare that with coal, right? In Indonesia, you can just contract with large coal mining company, and then you can get like shipments of, I don't know, 50 to 70,000 tons of vessels per month, or every week if depending on the size of your power plant. And that is much easier. You just sign a contract, and then the mine just mine out these coal, and these coal are more or less the same spec, because in your contract you would already specify that I want certain moisture level, calorific level, sulfur, ash, all these things can be specified. Whereas biomass, we're dealing with waste, right? So all these seems like a bad attribute, right? But what we see the opportunity is because in Indonesia in the past 10 years, there has been a lot of uh, Chinese investment into Indonesia. One reason is because of China's Belt and Road Initiative, where the Chinese companies, especially the state-owned enterprises, are coming out of China to invest in infrastructure projects. And these state-owned enterprises, for them, it's the same for them whether they do a $10 million project versus a 100 million or a 1 billion project, right? The amount of work is not as it's not like you do 1 million versus 100 million. It's not 100 times work, right? So these state-owned enterprises, they would rather do much larger projects, which happens to be coal. So in the biomass space, there's actually less. I don't have to compete with these state-owned enterprises, which has more money than us, more people than us. They have preferential treatment in terms of every single way. So that was also one of the reasons that makes it attractive for us to continue down this path for biomass. So yeah, so those are the opportunities, but definitely not easy.
Yeah, for sure. And how does ELL plan to adapt to global market trends in not only, like you said, wastewater treatment, biomass, energy production, just both of those in general? And also, is there any
Yeah.
new markets you're looking to enter into?
I'll answer the second question first. I don't I don't think we're looking into other markets just yet, because we feel like there's still a lot of opportunity and space to grow in Indonesia. That's number one. Second is because if we want to expand overseas, we also need a much stronger team, which we don't think we're there yet. So we need to build a stronger foundation before we do that. Especially with power plant, it's very capital intensive as well as labor and skill intensive, right? So unless I'm opening let's say I'm doing distribution for certain brands, it's easier to expand into multiple markets, and it's probably preferable to do that in our type of business. Then we'll have to commit significantly more resources when we go into each project. So I don't think we're there yet. So I think that's number one. In terms of adapting to global market trends in wastewater treatment and biomass energy generation, I think the overarching theme for the next 5 to 10 years we're looking at is in terms of we're really looking forward to see how the carbon credit landscape is going to pan out, because it's still up in the air, especially in Indonesia, because a few years back, Indonesian government decided the carbon credit couldn't be traded overseas, and because Indonesia wanted to set up their own carbon trading platform. But as of this moment, it's still unclear, as well as the pricing we heard is not that attractive, right? Which of course is not a good news for if you're doing renewable energy. The other one would be looking into ESG related funding, as well as how to be more compliant in that, because I think the world is slowly moving towards that direction. Of course, I think it's moving much slower than we would have wanted, because we actually 10 years ago we have already started looking at this, because we were doing some waste to energy, and of course, yeah, it's the world is still divided in terms of whether global warming is still a thing, right? So I think that's something that we're looking at. I think that's the global trend that we'll have to pay attention to.
How do you guys stay competitive in the energy space or renewable energy space when there are relatively a lot of alternatives? I mean, I'm not super knowledgeable about the space, but I mean, I saw, for example, the Indonesian government invested heavily in like solar energy, and then there's also wind, hydro. What makes you guys competitive in this landscape?
So hopefully the Indonesian government doesn't see this, but I mean, like, actually, the Indonesian government is not investing that heavily into renewable energy. In the newspaper, they talk a lot about it. Politicians like to talk about it because it sounds good. But in general, Indonesia's investment into renewable energy is actually very slow, and it's actually slowing down in the past few years. And we'll have to see how it goes because we are how many days away? We are 9 days away, right, from changing into a new government, new president. We'll have to see what the next next government is going to do. But the trend of the growth of renewable energy development is actually very stagnant and slowing down. Um, partly because PLN is not making money, is losing money. Second is in a lot of areas there is still a surplus of electricity. Partly is due to COVID, because for energy development in a country, you usually have to project a few years ahead to anticipate growth, right? Anticipate growth. So you build power ahead of that, right? So you don't have blackouts every single day. So a lot of these coal-fired power plants are coming online, and then before and during and after COVID, and the growth is not there. In fact, during COVID, of course, the consumption was actually going down. So all these factors combined together actually made renewable energy more development more stagnant than it has been. So that's number one, right? That's number one. And then second is the main question is how do we stay competitive? I guess how we stay competitive is that we niche down into. I mean, we don't try to do all these different kinds of renewable energy. We really niche down into doing biomass, right? To really understand the whole supply chain and to develop some of these our own competitiveness in terms of fuel processing as well as securing and the supply chain so that we are fully integrated. So it becomes very difficult for someone just to come in and beat us in this industry.
Okay, I think for the next question, I just want to ask, what role does tech play in your business operation? Have you looked into like AI, blockchain, or even a lot of things like technology-wise?
Yes. I mean, technology is very important. Very important in the sense that, like if we're talking about, because technology actually, I mean, we're using technology right now, right? I mean, everybody is using technology right now, just in a different degree and what you're using it for. And I think like if technology is used in a good way, it actually unlocks a lot of productivity as well as potential for people. So how we're using it, right? I mean, talking in more practical terms, because I mean tech is very broad, right? I guess to give some context to the listener, I mean we're using a lot of tech in terms of our everyday operation. Obviously, our power plant, is control. We're not like, just talking to people, screaming to people, be like turning on and off the valve. It's like it's all controlled by a DCS system. So, it's just a centralized control room. So all those are tech, but those tech have been around for a long time, right? Nothing cutting edge. Of course, in terms of the office administration operation, we're using a lot more. We're using a lot of different services to for operation, accounting and tax. Of course, we have these softwares, and we are using parts of an ERP system. We're using Power BI to look at we are in the process of trying to use Power BI to visualize some of our production so that we can slice and dice our production data as well as understanding our business better. of course, for communication, file storage, everything, right? Especially during COVID, we had to do work from home, so we have to make sure the infrastructure is there so that people are able to actually work properly. So those are the things. I mean, it's super broad, and it's something that I had to learn a lot in order to actually see how we can utilize it properly. And coming to AI itself is that um, I mean, when ChatGPT first came out, and then I was one day I was walking. I think it was, when did it come out? Already 2 years ago? Was it 2 years ago? Was it 2022? Yeah, 2022 November or something, right? So in 2023, I think it was like one of the Sundays I was on a car-free day walking, running on Sudirman, and I was thinking to myself, hey, this ChatGPT thing came out. Like, what, like, yeah, it's really cool, all the demos, but what does it actually mean for the business itself, right? Because, in a way, we're just like shoveling biomass, into the furnace to burn, right? So, so like, how does it actually apply to our business? And my, of course, this is my thinking for the AI. Like, how I can actually make use of it. It's actually it's a very good tool for learning because there are so many. It's a hugely beneficial as an entrepreneur to for asking a lot of questions and get you off at a good starting point. Right, there are so many general knowledge that you have to acquire, and when you're running a business, like the bottleneck is really the like of course the bottleneck is really the people, right? When I say when you come back to yourself, the bottleneck is really your own brain, right? Your thinking, what you understand, what you can do, right? So if with AI, with this tool, it accelerates your learning as well as enhances the learning, and that I find is very useful, and that we're also introducing this to our employees in the office because you can just use it for free. But then again, right, just because there are tools out there, right, just because, for example, you can actually go to YouTube and take MIT, Harvard courses, doesn't mean everybody's taking it, right? The information is out there, the tool is out there. Are people really using it effectively or using it for productive means? That's another thing. But we're trying to. So I think fast forward to today, I'm using it almost on a daily basis. Right, the $20 that is for the plus version, or now it's called Omni version. I think it's a small price to pay if you're like really using it. It's like a gym membership, right? You pay a gym membership, you don't really use it, then it's like a waste. And like knowing how to use it would be do you actually know how to work out, right? Do you know how how the muscle works? Do you know how the body works, right? So I think that's very important. So of course there are other things. For example, right? I mean, our power plants, we have Chinese engineer, Indonesian engineer. One of the things that we're trying to do it's still in the pipeline, is that currently a lot of the reports is written in two languages, right? The Indonesian engineer cannot read the Chinese. The Chinese cannot read the Indonesian writings. Of course, I mean, they still find ways to communicate, but it's ineffective, right? So what we are trying to do is that have AI, combine all these reports and make it into languages that people can actually understand. And AI is getting better and better in terms of understanding human language, right? It's like it's scary how good it is, right? It's scary how good it is. So that actually help us break down a lot of barriers, right? And also helps us save a lot of human resources, because if you have to do a lot of these translation manually and you have to hire people to do it, right? It's very costly, number one. Number two is that it's also difficult to actually making sure the business process runs properly. So that's the AI part. I think, and then you mentioned about blockchain, right? This is something that is super interesting for us because we're in the energy space, right? we're actually looking into developing data centers down the road. So if anyone who is listening and you guys have ideas to develop a data center, I think energy is really the frontier, right? At the end of the day, everything is converted to units of energy, right? We're talking about hyperscale data center that are using like uh, like a stupendous amount of energy. If you look at like Malaysia, Johor Bahru right now, they have 2 gigawatts, 2 gigawatts of power that is being developed for data center. Um, what is 2 gigawatt, right? I mean, doesn't mean anything. Let me put it into perspective, but I need to do a little bit of math. 2 gigawatts, according to World Bank, I think an average Indonesian household use about 1,000 kilowatt hour, right, per year. Of course, Indonesia, there's a lot of disparity between different regions, right? So, but we just use that average, right? So that means 2 gigawatt. Let's see. I want to do the yeah. Basically, it's good for a few 100,000 to a million people to use the power, right? Just to charge your phone and all that. But yeah. Anyway, that's uh that's actually yeah. I mean, over 10 million people, over over 10 to 15 million people. So it's like a lot of power. That's a lot of power, right? Jakarta has 20 million people, right? Of course, I think in Jakarta people use more power, right? I mean, you guys use way more power than 1,000 kilowatt hour. You can look up US. US is probably 10 to 15 times of that number. They're probably accounting for people in the kampong where they have one light bulb in the house, right? So that like can bring down the average. Anyway, so that's what we're thinking at, and then of course blockchain will be highly related to crypto, which also crypto mining uses a lot of power, and end of this year OJK is gonna take over, and we'll see how the regulation goes. And Indonesia right now is still quite friendly in terms of crypto, and hopefully that's going to be the trend going forward.
Okay, I think for the next question, I'm just gonna ask, what do people misunderstand about your company or your industry the most?
I think what people misunderstand the most about this industry is whenever I talk to a lot of companies, especially if they're overseas, be like, "Oh, well, I'm doing renewable energy," and the first reaction they will be like, "Oh, it's a great business. It's great. It's the future. Right? It may be the future, but it's definitely not great. Not great at this moment." So maybe in the future it'll be better, but I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's not like all sunshines and roses. Like I said. Uh, it's developing very slowly in Indonesia, right? In terms of ESG carbon credit, there's not that much support, at least not in this part of the world yet, right? There's no incentive for companies to actually buy carbon credits in Indonesia because there's no carbon tax, right? So so I think it can be greater, but it's not like we are pooping out gold nuggets every day, right? So I think that's what people misunderstand most. Um, yeah. So yeah, I guess that would be the fun facts.
And for the next question is about mentorship. I think mentorship is important for everyone, regardless of age. Have you had any mentors, and what has been their impact on you?
Yeah, I think I like definitely had many different mentors. Like although there's no like officially any kind of I don't call them, hey, can you be my mentor? I don't know. I watched like I hear people or I watch YouTube videos or when I attend some business organizations, they say, oh, you have to find mentors and then like have lunch with them on a regular basis or something. I I guess I guess like I didn't really have any kind of official mentorship kind of way, but of course there are a lot of people that taught me a lot of things and impacted me in many different ways. Some of them could be like real people that I met. Some people could be just I saw them on a video that really inspired me, or it could be like books I've read about people's biography and all that. So all those I consider are mentors that have impacted me and how they assist in my careers. I think really helped me see things in a different perspective because I mean if there's this concept called the Johari window, right? So it's like four quadrants. So you have the things that you know and I know, right? Like now you know that I'm from Hong Kong and I know that I'm from Hong Kong, right? These are facts that everybody knows. And then of course there are things that I know that you don't know, right? You don't know what I'm hiding in the closet there, right? Well, nothing. But and then there are things that you know that you're not telling me, about me that I don't know, right? So that could be other things. That could be a third quadrant. But the most valuable is the last quadrant where things that you don't know and I don't know, right? There are things that you and I both don't know, right? Uh, because the most valuable thing, like I said, is it's very hard to know what you don't know, right? It's very hard to know what you don't know, and sometimes these requires introspection as well as uh, looking at others and then really thinking about like what others are like, really reflecting on the actions as well as on mentors, right? That gives you a new perspective, and that gives you insights about things that you didn't previously know, right? Um, so I think that is very important. And then I guess another analogy would be like I don't know whether Tyson said it or whoever said it. Don't quote me on this. They were saying like, what is the most dangerous punch, right, in a ring? They said. So the answer the person gave was the most dangerous punch is the ones that you don't see, right? So so if we come back to this theme of what we're trying to talk about is that the things that are often most impactful to you is the things that you previously didn't even think about, right? So I think so those are the most impactful ways that have helped me and assist me in seeing the world as well as the business itself.
And I think for the last question, I just want to ask, uh, do you have any piece of advice for anyone, for a student who want to work in your industry or your company, or maybe you want to promote a job opening in your company, maybe?
Uh, I mean, if anyone listening to this is interested to work at our company, we'll welcome that. I mean, we're still small. I mean, in our Jakarta office, we have about 15 people. Of course, in the factory, we have over 100. We have several different sites, but still a very small company. So things are still a bit chaotic. Um, but definitely, I think what would be quite interesting, right? Advice wise, I mean, since a lot of your listeners are from Indonesian background as well as, if they're studying overseas, they probably are come from a fluent enough background. They might have some family business, which is, sort of where I have been working for and in is a family business. Is that uh, in my case, maybe a little bit more unique in the sense that I am working a family business, but then like I'm the only one in the family in Indonesia, so I have more freedom. But then like if you come to a family business, come back to your family business, and there's your uncle, there's your dad, there's your auntie, there's like 16 other cousins, then it may be a different stories as well. But I think my advice would be to um I mean, if I could give myself advice, like 10 years ago, is that there is a certain way to run the business that is better, right? There's a certain way than others, right? Because when I was coming here, I was thinking, oh, doing business there, like many different. Of course, there are many different ways, but there are much better ways compared to like worse ways, and you really need to find out. You need to really find that out first, right? Before you kind of experiment with other stuff. It's like coming back, going to the gym, right? You can like freestyle, you can invent your own exercises, right? But probably you would have better results if you just go in, stick to a plan, try it out, learn as much as you can, and then iterate from there. So I think business is like that as well, and and you have to and we're talking about learning, so um, uh, so you find better ways to learn. Just now we talked about AI, and today there's too much information, right? I don't know how many people are going to listen to the podcast, but there's so many podcasts out there. Like if I just have the headphone glued to my ear and trying to listen to all the podcasts like that is coming out today, I would not be able to finish it probably in the next 10 years, right? So it's about how do you decipher good information from bad information in the age of information overflow. So joining certain groups that are high quality, those people actually filter out because those people have already gone through all the shitty information, and they can give you better information, and so that you can kind of not waste your time. So I think those, and then of course once you find those information is really trying to learn it, right? Keep on learning. That's very important. So that's I mean there are a lot of mistakes that I made in the past 10 years. So there are too many advice I could give myself, but I guess those would be some. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much for that. So yeah, thank you very much, Pat Brian. Me and Eldrick both want to say thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know you're super busy. We don't want to take up too much of your time, but yeah, thank you very much. We really appreciate this.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for arranging this. Have a good day. Have a good night. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you
Yes, you
too.
too.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Cheers.
Bye.